welcome to Coffee with Baseload. We are here because of you. You've been sending in a lot of questions and we want to answer them. The first one who's answering them today, Pernilla Wihlborg, our COO. Welcome to Coffee with Baseload.
Thank you. So great to be here.
It feels extra nice to do these recordings from home. This is our office.
It is our office.
And finally, nice to be back in the office, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. Maybe, for everybody who's not actually in Sweden, yesterday was a big day for us, right? When we're allowed to go back into the office again. So
no more restrictions.
No more
in Sweden.
restrictions. That's a milestone, to say the least.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And finally, we can go back to our fika. Yeah.
The wonderful Swedish fika.
Yeah, a tradition dear to our hearts.
Yeah.
And to people who haven't been in Sweden, fika is actually a part of the day. You can have it in before lunch and after lunch, depends on. But it's like a possibility to get your sweets every day.
And it's also just a possibility to talk, right?
Exactly.
It's so much more than just having the sweets. It's really like
sitting
let's
down
go have a
with
fika.
a coffee.
Yeah, chatting, relaxing a bit. Yeah.
And it always includes the good part. So on the table here we have the cinnamon bun, which is like a traditional Swedish fika treat.
Yeah.
But it's not always cinnamon buns, and everybody has their own favorites. And I have to ask you, which one is your favorite?
I think these are good, for sure. I'm Swedish after all. But I think it goes with the seasons. So, in the summertime, it should be something strawberry. When it comes to like Christmas time, it should be these lussebullar. And then now, when we're in February, then it's semla.
Oh, semla. Can you please explain what a semla is? Because I don't
You
think...
don't know?
Yeah, I know, but they don't.
Of course,
right?
yeah. No, so if you don't know what a semla is always, you can Google it, of course. But basically, it's a bun with whipped cream and then the almond paste, like marzipan, but with more almond.
Inside it.
Inside
and
it,
it's very impossible to eat. That's why we don't have it on the table here, because it's a very one, a bite very big.
Yeah. And then there's always this big discussion, do you eat it with milk, hot milk around, or do you eat it just like it is?
We want to know which your favorite fikas are, so please, in the commentary, make sure to send us in which fika should we have on the table, because there are so many out there in the world. But we're happy to have you here, guys, to be with us here in our office to discuss. As we said, we're here because you sent in a lot of questions during our webinars, and we haven't had the time to answer them, and we feel that that's unfair. So we will gather all the questions and we will answer them with all the different people in our staff.
Yeah.
Are you ready for your question, Pernilla?
I am so ready.
Okay, let me bring up my phone. So your question is sent in from Malcom. Actually, Malcom Ross. And his question is, what are the competitors to geothermal in the energy marketplace? Is it really wind and solar, or is it something else? What's your perspective on this one?
Well, it's not wind and solar, for sure.
How come? What do you...
Well, just think about it. Wind and solar account for some 10% of the energy mix. We have 40% goes to coal. So if you look at those, I think we're not competing with the 10% renewables. We're competing with the bigger sort of fossil fuel part of the energy mix. When it comes to wind and solar, I think what they have gone through, it's really inspiring and something that we want to sort of develop more within geothermal so that we can grow in the same way. And even on projects, there are, possibilities to cooperate, at least with solar. Maybe not with wind. You can't really have a wind park and a geothermal park at the same time.
Can you give us an example of like how that cooperation can look like?
I don't know. Just having solar panels on the buildings, that if you have a geothermal power plant, you can put solar panels on the buildings. If you have a large piece of land where you drill, several wells for injection and production, possibly you could put, some small solar panels there as well on the piece of land So that, there's even benefits in some hot areas. When you produce geothermal, especially if you do binary, you need to have cooling water as well, right? So in areas where it's really hot, during the daytime, your cooling water is going to be, hotter in temperature, which means you will have actually slightly less geothermal production during that time. So, that's when the solar park would sort of produce the most, right? So if you think about it over an average of the 24 hours per day, there's a small dip in geothermal, which could then possibly be sort of lifted with solar. I'm just saying,
instead of competition, you see collaboration.
Exactly. I think that's really how we should view it. And to me, competing with something that is good for the world, that's not really, the right thing. Let's try to just work together instead. It's better.
So your answer to Malcom in this case is that no, we are not competing with solar and wind.
Exactly. No, we are not competing with solar and wind. I would say, if anything, what we are sort of struggling against is perhaps sort of the regulatory and the permitting processes and those kind of things that have been adapted for solar and wind, because those are the main renewables that people know about and who have sort of been who have been sort of the guiding star for setting regulations in the past years. And of course, the production of geothermal is very different, especially if we do, smaller distributed low temp geothermal. So in some, extent, it would be good to kind of get other sort of views on what regulatory requirements would be for geothermal. That would be different. But that's not really competing. It's just shedding light on a challenge that I think the geothermal industry faces, where people, put it together with solar and wind maybe in too large extent.
Can I ask you, if I turn it around, is it relevant to think that, do you think that sun and wind feel that geothermal is competing with them?
It's always a difficult question to answer what other people might think, but I mean, I wouldn't see why. So, I mean, if I had to guess, I would say no. Because again, I mean, they see the statistics in the same way we do, right? And we're not really competing for the same land either, to be honest. I mean, sure, in some rare cases, it might be the perfect spot for both geothermal and solar. And that's the scenario I was explaining. In those cases, we could even cooperate and do both. But otherwise, I don't really see why that would be a huge competition. So I hope not.
Is there anything that we are actually competing against?
I mean, this is a boring, boring answer, but it's like knowledge, awareness. That's the constant struggle, and
people know
about it. I mean, exactly, getting airtime to kind of bring awareness to this very important energy type. So it's more, that's what I would say. There's so many things going on in the world, and how should you expect anybody to pay attention to all of it at once? So from that perspective, yes, we are competing, because we want the attention. We want the regulators to kind of focus on making things easier for geothermal, and they have loads of stuff on their table, right? So.
Is there a possibility for renewables to come together and collaborate even better? Is there even a quest or an ask? Would you like that?
Well, collaboration is always good, and I think that's what we've been working with quite a lot since we started with Baseload, that we want the geothermal industry to collaborate and more, and we really want we need to work together if we're gonna bring attention to this small area. And if you look at the bigger, context of things, renewables, including solar and wind, are still fairly small in the energy mix. So of course, collaboration is always good. So I wouldn't say, I'd say yes to that. But I think in the short term, just aligning the geothermal industry and making more noise around geothermal a good win for us as well.
So one step at a time.
One step at a time.
Good. Thank you very much, Pernilla. Let's enjoy our cinnamon bun here.
Finally,
Are you ready
can
for
we
it?
actually eat these?
Yes, we can eat them now.
Yay.
So please feel free. Here you go.
Nice.
And take a big bite.
Like we should. You know how I actually like to eat cinnamon buns?
No.
I don't like to eat them like this. I'm one of these people. I like to tear
you're
them
the
apart like
you're
this.
A tearer.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh,
This is how you should do it.
I agree with you.
Wonderful.
That's yummy. That's a lot of sugar. Cheers, guys. I hope you'll join us for the next Coffee at Baseload. Please send in your questions, because that's the thing what we do here. We answer your questions. Have a good week, a good month. Take care. And if you can, someone else. Bye.
Bye.